Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by No Halftime. Use promo code BBALL100 to get up to a $100 deposit bonus to use in the No Halftime app. You can find the app on the Apple Store and Amazon.com. And with that, we are off. Welcome to the Black Friday show for November 25th, 2016. Every NBA team is playing on Friday, so it's 15 games. I'm your host, Daniel Green, otherwise known as The Judge. You can find me on Twitter at DanielAGreen1. Today, I am joined by my trusty sidekick, Tyler Watts. Tyler, what's going on, man?
It's going, Daniel. It's going. How's it going with you?
It's going. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Me and you are giving the people what they want. Doing this monster show for this monster slate, even though it is Thanksgiving night. It's good to be here. Hope everyone had a good holiday. Now, like I said, there are 15 games. However, thank God one of them is a 1 p.m. game, so that's not going to count on the slate. That's so you guys can ignore. We all can ignore San Antonio at Boston, unless you for some reason want to play the main slate and maybe you're suicidal and you want to play all 15 games instead of 14. But so we're only going to be talking about 14 games actually. But I think that's enough to talk about. Don't you, Tyler?
I think that should be plenty.
Before we get started, again, we're going to try to keep this show to around an hour. I know I say that like every show. Now, we can do an hour show with 4 games. So with 14 games, it's going to be difficult, but we'll do the best we can. Also, I want to give a couple quick things regarding Chambers. The best of the best Chambers is on Friday, so we're looking forward to that. Again, best of the best is we run that every Friday, and it's just people who are basically at the top of the power rankings. I'm going to unleash the power rankings, which I just updated, probably Friday early afternoon. I will also send invites to the best of the best tournament, either Thursday night or Friday morning, afternoon. And I want to say congrats to Thal, that's THALL 0717, who is the new number 1 player in the Chambers power rankings, Tyler. Very exciting.
That's not a real person.
It is. That's his Twitter name too.
I want Thal to tweet me and prove that he's a real person.
He is. He is. I mean, he is. I've tweeted with him numerous times.
I'm not buying it.
All right. Well, you cannot. Well, yeah, you need to play Chambers, man. Where are you? Everyone keeps asking. Where's Tyler in Chambers?
Dude, I'd try to let the listeners in, man. I don't want to take the listeners' spots in Chambers.
Come on. I think you. I don't think you played once this year. I think you're scared.
Oh, listen to throwing down. I can't play tomorrow, man. Best of the best. I'm out.
That's true. You won't qualify for that, but maybe on Saturday I'll try to get you in. So that's a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Otherwise, let's get cracking, man. Let's get into this slate.
All right, let's do it.
I'm real quickly. I'm just perusing the over/unders, Tyler. There's still a couple that are not released, but most of them are out. The Whopper is Lakers, Golden State at the Lakers, I should say. These two teams played on Wednesday where Golden State beat them by what, 40, 50, 60, 70? I think Golden State put up 149 points.
My eyes are still burning.
Yeah, they were favored by, I think, 18 points last game. They're favored 13 in LA, so not as bad. But the over/under is just a number. You rarely see games over 230. This is an over/under of 233.5. So there obviously is a blowout potential here. Although a lot of the Warriors, they still hit value, even though they absolutely destroyed the Lakers last game. So the Warriors guys are still in play. I'm probably not going to play them in cash just because that over/under is just. That blowout potential scares me a little bit. But I'm going to have a lot of guys on both those teams in tournaments on Friday. Otherwise, there's a big drop off after that. The next best game in terms of over/under is Brooklyn at Indy. What a nasty game that is. 215.5. You
missed one. Portland, New Orleans.
Oh yeah, you're right. I missed one. The Pelicans at Dame Judy Dench Lillard's Blazers. 219 over/under. That's a tasty game. There'll be no defense there. That game should stay close. The Pelicans have been playing really well. They've blown out teams the last couple of games and pretty good teams. So that should be an interesting game. Houston, Sacramento. Houston's always in. That's an interesting game. You basically have one of the best teams in the league in terms of pace, fastest teams in pace, versus one of the slowest. So that will be interesting to see how that shakes out. So really, there's really the only game I'm probably looking to avoid is Atlanta, Utah. That's the only game with the under 200 over-under. That's 195. And even in that game, I'll probably use some of the guys for tournaments. So let's start cracking with some injuries, Tyler. You want to run through the injuries for Friday?
Yeah, I can do that. So you got listed as out D'Angelo Russell. We heard just the other day he's going to miss 2 to 3 weeks after that injection. So he's out. Joel Embiid is resting, which just makes me sad. Jeremy Lin, Thiago Splitter, Derek Favors, Justice Winslow, Al-Farouq Amino, all out. So we're not going to worry about them for tomorrow. Questionable guys, you got Darren Williams, you got Cody Zeller, you got Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Dion Waiters, Goran Dragic, Gallinari, Julius Randle, and Nick Young. They're all listed as questionable. Obviously 50-50 if they play, so we'll see what happens there. And then probable for tomorrow, you got Otto Porter, Joakim Noah, Kyle Korver, Tyson Chandler.
Woo! All right, so before we get into the plays now at each position, I'll quickly just say I got a couple questions on Twitter. How do I handle strategy regarding monster slates like this? The one kind of difference that I use on slates like this, I don't care, and I think I mentioned this on one other show, I don't really, in tournaments, I don't care as much about ownership. There's really no, on a 15 or I guess 14 game slate, there's really no such thing as a chalk play. So I'll still think about ownership maybe as like a tiebreaker, but for the most part, I mean, a super highly owned guy is going to be about 30% on a large slate like this, whereas, if it's a short slate, they'll be 50, 60, 70% owned. So, I really don't care as much about ownership. I'm telling you, I mean, you can play a lot of really like star-studded guys, and they'll be 12, 14% owned. I mean, I was on Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday when it was a 13-game slate. I mean, I was playing a lot of top guns, and they were all, and so many were between, like 9 and 15%. So, I mean, you don't have to worry as much about ownership. On smaller slates, we definitely do have to worry about that because you want to differentiate your lineups. When there's this many guys playing, I just don't worry about that as much. I mean, that's the main difference for me on a slate like this.
Well, and that just makes sense too, right? I mean, there's a lot more studs playing, so people who want to play a stud, they have a lot more options. There's not just one or two $10,000 guys. There's, like an example for tomorrow's slate, there's 5 players over 10,000. So it just makes sense that that's all going to kind of get spread out, and people are going to kind of pick their horse.
Yep. And lastly, before we get into plays, I just want to say, did you watch Kevin Love on Wednesday?
That was a very strange game, wasn't it?
Well, the entire game was strange, but I'm just still fuming over the fact that Kevin Love put up 34 actual points and 40 FanDuel points in the first quarter, and he took I think it was 14 shots in the first quarter. It might have been 16, maybe, but I think it was 14. And then
like 11 or 14, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. And then I didn't understand, why wouldn't LeBron and Kyrie to a lesser extent, but why wouldn't those guys just let Kevin Love have one game to himself? Let him get 50, 60 points. I mean, the guy, he's always going to be a third wheel there. Let him have his day in the sun, man. He only got 6 shots the rest of the game, and ended up with 6 more points. I mean, and I think at the end of the night, LeBron basically had as many FanDuel points as Kevin Love did.
Well, LeBron had triple-double, so yeah, probably.
They both ended up with somewhere like 60 FanDuel points. But I was just like, come on, man. Let that guy just keep shooting and let him try to go for 50, 60, 70 points. It was just, it really made me upset. Not to mention I had Kevin Love. And as if you listen to the show, you knew that we love Kevin Love for cash games. So I had him everywhere in cash and in a lot of the Quinn tournaments I play, which basically give you 5 times your entry fee if you win those. So I had him everywhere, and it was actually a really good night for me on Wednesday. So, but I did want to see Kevin Love go for a monster number. Anyway, all right, man. Let's get into the plays. Tyler, you name the plays. Let's get it started.
All right, top point guard on the board, you got Russell Westbrook, 11.8K at Denver. Thoughts on Westbrook?
Yeah, I mean, one of my rules that I live by in life, I mean, not only in DFS, Tyler, in life, you should know this. What's one of my main rules? Who do I attack?
You always attack the Denver small or point guards?
I attack the Denver guards, a point guard and shooting guard, especially shooting guard, but also point guard. So
I was going to say smalls, but then I realized they're all 6'6", and I was like, yeah. That doesn't make sense.
So, I mean, OKC's, they've been playing horrendous lately. Not Westbrook. He's still been unreal. But Westbrook, I know I got this question on Twitter. Westbrook is my top play of the day for for Friday. He cannot ask for a better matchup, and I love the fact that it's at Denver. It's going to be the pace is going to be beautiful. Everything about this game screams beautiful. Therefore, he'll probably have his worst game of the year. But this game, I mean, he should torch those guys. So lock and load in cash, and obviously he's unbelievable tournament play too.
I'm with you there. Next guy on the board, you got John Wall, 9.6 at Orlando. Thoughts on Wall?
Yeah, this game is Washington is playing Orlando, so Orlando plays at one of the slowest paces in the NBA. So the over under here is not that great. It's 202.5. Wall's price has come up from 9.2K to 9.6K. Wall is notoriously much better at home than on the road. So I'm not going to play him in cash. I maybe use him in a couple lineups in tournaments, but I don't love this play for Friday.
Yeah, I feel you there. Next guy, you got Chris Paul, 9.4K at Detroit. Thoughts on Paul?
Yeah, I don't love Paul on Friday either. I just like too many other guys better at point guard, which is always loaded. I'm sure Paul's going to have KCP on him. KCP, he's one of the sneakiest lockdown defenders in the NBA. So, I mean, I would assume that the Detroit puts KCP on CP3 for at least a large portion of the game. Also, Detroit plays at a really slow pace. So this is a nasty game, 201 over-under. So, yeah, I just don't love this play. I mean, CP3 is a very safe floor, especially if this game stays close, but I don't love the play.
Next guy on the board, you got Steph Curry, 9.1K at the Lakers. He just scored 51.5 FanDuel points against them. And I was right in our Kyle Lowry against Steph Curry thing yesterday. So thoughts on Curry?
But what were you right about? I don't remember what you said.
You said you'd rather play Lowry, and I said I'd rather play Curry.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you were right. And the most amazing thing is you left out the minutes. He had 52 FanDuel points in 29 minutes. So
I told you he was going to carve them up, man. Didn't matter how many minutes he played.
So if this game stays close, I mean, Curry, I can't use him in cash. His price has come up now to 9.1K, so it's come up $300. But in tournaments, if this game could stay close, dear God, I mean, he could put up 60, 70, FanDuel points with that 233 over-under. So he's just a fantastic tournament play. But cash, I'm still not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, just the thought of the blowout potential in that game. I mean, they might be without Randall, Russell, and Nick Young tomorrow, which is three of their bigger rotation players, such that they have any big rotation players. So you could definitely see a blowout there. Next guy on the board, you got your boy Dame Lillard, 9K against New Orleans. Thoughts on Lillard?
Yeah, Judi Dench. I mean, I hate this guy. I hate everything about him. Right now, his FanDuel picture is like smiling at me. I wish it could turn to a frown. So they played Cleveland on Wednesday. I had zero Dame Lillard exposure. He may have been the only guy on Wednesday I didn't play. And of course, he put up 63 FanDuel points. Also, he didn't play any defense, and Portland gave up 80 points to Cleveland in the first half, and I think they gave up 130 in the game, something like that, some ridiculous amount.
It was insane.
Yeah, so, but before the game where Lillard put up 63 FanDuel points, he was, he had 5 straight games in the low 30s. He's actually been pretty terrible, so especially for his standards. So playing the Pelicans, we mentioned this is one of the top over-unders of the day. I think it's the second best over-under. This game should stay close. He's got the little pesky guards for the Pelicans playing defense. I mean, I'm not too worried about Tim Frazier's defense. So tournament play. He's a fine tournament play. I mean, he does have the upside. I just hate everything about Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's just a great matchup. So, I mean, if I'm playing a lot of lineups, I'm definitely throwing him in a couple tournaments. Next guy on the board, Kyle Lowry, 8.6K at Milwaukee. Thoughts on Lowry?
Where's the over-under in this game? Is it not up yet? Is it? Oh, wow.
It's up.
How is the over-under 211 for this game?
I don't make the spreads, man.
Take the under. I mean, Milwaukee hasn't played a fast pace. That is perplexing, and Toronto doesn't either. That's confusing to me. But anyway, yeah, he's fine. I don't love this play on Friday. His price has come up all the way to 8.6K now. At Houston, where I thought he'd have a monster game, he only put up 31 FanDuel points. He let me down. Killed a lot of my lineups. He's still relatively safe. I think that 31 points, that's about his floor. I don't mind that play. He'll be super low owned on Friday. So maybe throw him in 1 or 2 tournaments, but I mean, I don't love that play.
Next two guys, you got two guys, 7.9K, Kemba Walker at the Knicks and Drew Holiday at the Blazers. Thoughts on these two guys?
I love Kemba for Friday. I mean, he's pretty much matchup proof. He's pace proof. Versus San Antonio, he put up 45 FanDuel points. He's a consistency monster. I don't mind him if you want to spend in that 7 to 8K value, and I'd much prefer him in cash over anyone in this kind of price range. So he's fine for cash. Derrick Rose defense, delicious. Sign me up for that. Drew Holiday, he is getting Dame Judi Dench-Lillard's defense, but his minutes still, he's not really cracking the 30-minute barrier yet. So at that 8K price tag, I really don't want too much Drew on Friday, which stinks because that over-under is so tasty. So maybe in 1 or 2 tournaments, but that price needs to come down a little bit if he's only going to get 25 minutes.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out moving forward, if they're actually ramping him up to get big minutes, or if because of some injuries he's had in the past, they're going to
also I should say this: the minutes. I mean, the Pelicans are coming off 2 straight blowouts, so maybe that's also why his minutes have been low.
Yeah, well, he did play 30. I mean, against Charlotte.
Yeah, so if he gets 30 minutes against Judi Dench's defense, he could put up 45 FanDuel points, but he needs 40 just to hit value. So tournament only.
I'm with you there. Next guy on the board, Eric Bledsoe, 7.6K against the Timberwolves. Thoughts on Bledsoe?
Bledsoe's been playing better. I've just been really annoyed at Phoenix because I keep playing Brandon Knight, and that does not work out for me lately. Even though Brandon Knight's price keeps dropping, pretty soon Brandon Knight's going to be free to play. It's not going to cost you a dime. Actually, FanDuel might give you money to play Brandon Knight. He just sits in a corner and lets Bledsoe shoot, and then lets Booker shoot. But Bledsoe at 7.6K should be a pretty fast-paced game against Minnesota. Phoenix is number 1 in the league in pace. I don't mind Bledsoe for tournaments. I'll have a little bit of exposure in this game in case this game stays close, and has a really high over/under.
Yeah, next guy on the board, you got 7.6K Kyrie Irving against the Mavs. Thoughts on Irving?
Wow, what is? Oh, this is one of the games where there's no over/under up yet. Not sure who. Maybe the entire Dallas team is questionable or something again. Yeah, I don't really want. Cleveland should beat Dallas by 50 points at home. So I want no part of this game.
I'm with you there. Next guy, Mike Conley, 7.3K against the Heat. Thoughts on Conley?
Dude, I've been playing some Conley, and he's coming through for me. I played him a lot the last couple nights, and he put up the last 2 games 49 and 44 FanDuel points. Granted, against Philly, I think it was like a double overtime game. And he had 2 horrendous turnovers, one in end regulation and one at the end of the first overtime, that basically extended those games. I think he did that on purpose. But against Miami, that's going to be those are 2 of the slowest paced teams. I don't mind him, but his price keeps creeping up a little bit. So he's pretty safe for cash games. A pretty safe floor. I don't love this game, love this play just because of the pace is going to be so nasty.
Yeah, I feel you there. Next guy on the board is Jeff Teague, 6.9K against the Nets. Thoughts on Teague?
Yeah, now that Paul George is back, Teague becomes a guy who I probably won't be playing a ton because his price went up when Paul George was out. So he's still he's 6.9K. He's basically got to get you 35 FanDuel points. Now, he did play really well in a revenge game versus Atlanta and had 42 FanDuel points, but not a guy I want a ton of exposure to against Brooklyn. Brooklyn's so bad. Indiana should blow them out, but Indiana hasn't been playing that well either. So maybe I'll have a little Teague exposure. He's actually kind of safe. But at that price tag, actually, I would not play him in cash at that price tag. That's like $500 too expensive for me because Indiana's now healthy. So if you want some exposure to Teague in tournaments, you can do it. I just don't know what the upside is with Paul George back. I think his upside is basically what he did last game, like 42, 43 FanDuel points.
Well, and I think we've seen too, like when all of their guys have played, like they each kind of have a game, and they kind of just feeding the guy who's hot. It seems like Teague will have a game, Paul George will have a game, Miles Turner will have a game, and like it's very rare that they all like just produce decent value. It seems like one guy skyrockets and the other guys just kind of tail off and produce like a little bit less.
Yeah, well, and Indiana's one of those teams where a lot, there's only one ball, and a lot of those guys need the ball in their hands, so it's difficult.
And so, I mean, obviously, you don't want a ton of exposure to him on a huge slate. Next guy on the board, Ricky Rubio, 6.3K at the Suns. Thoughts on Rubio?
Rubio is like personally haunting my dreams these days. I played him on Wednesday, and what I thought was a nice matchup versus the Pelicans, and he gave me a 12 FanDuel points. The time before that, when I played him, he gave me 15 FanDuel points. Like, he's had some, like, 3 out of his last 4 games, he's been basically 15 FanDuel points or fewer. And the one decent game he had was 32 FanDuel points, which is basically barely hitting value. So, I mean, at Phoenix, which is which the pace should be awesome. Like, he in theory, he should have a good game, but he sucks right now. I don't understand really what's going on with him. I'll throw him in a couple lineups just because he's going to be so low owned, and the upside is there. Minnesota is one of those teams where we just talked about Jeff Teague only one ball. Andrew Wiggins is destroying the value of a lot of guys. I don't know if you saw what Andrew Wiggins did last game.
Yeah.
He was 0 for 15 from the floor with 0 assists, 0 rebounds, just a complete dud. Like one of the worst games I've ever seen anyone play. So, I mean, the problem with Wiggins is he needs the ball in his hands, and then he'll dribble, and then shoot. He won't let anyone else touch it. And especially if the Minnesota guys aren't hitting shots, Rubio can't get assists. And Rubio's not really a scorer, so it's hard to figure out what Rubio's upside is these days. That's why
and the minutes have been super inconsistent. Like, he's just a really hard guy to peg right now.
Yeah.
I think you're going to eventually get big assists and big steal numbers and some decent rebounds for a point guard and not much else. But you're not getting it now, so I mean, definitely a tournament only play for me.
Yeah, I mean, if I have 20 lineups, I would probably throw him in like 1 or 2.
I hear you there. Next guy, George Hill, 6.3K against the Hawks. Thoughts on Hill?
Dude, I mean, Hill, like when Hill was out for a while. He started the year off great, and he's never been a great DFS player or a great fantasy player. But he started the year off great. Then he got injured he was out, numerous games. His first game back was Wednesday. Played 29 minutes and put up 35 FanDuel points, man. Like, I haven't played him. I played him very selectively this year. Originally I thought that price tag is just too much, but when he plays, he's been pretty solid. So, I don't love this game. I don't love this matchup versus Atlanta, but I think if you want to play him, you can. I mean, I'm just not going to have a ton of exposure to him, but that's just me. I mean, I can't really give you a valid reason why I'm not going to play him other than I like other guys better on Friday.
I'm with you there. You got 2 guys, 6.1K. Darren Collison at home against the Rockets and Emmanuel Mudiay at home against the Thunder. Thoughts on these two?
Yeah, both these guys hurt me on Wednesday. Let's go with Mudiay first, that buster. Wow, his last 2 games have been just – I mean, if you're like on the cut, if you're having depression issues, if you're in therapy, don't play Mudiay because he'll put you off the ledge. The last 2 games, Tyler, 9 FanDuel points and 4 FanDuel points. So just don't even think about playing him in cash. Clearly a boom or bust guy because he has 40 FanDuel point potential. So, versus Westbrook, Westbrook plays 0 defense. So, if I have 20 lineups, maybe I'll throw Mudiay. He's another guy I'll throw into 1 or 2, but I would not feel good about it. I'd feel sick about it and probably vomit. In terms of Darren Collison, he did not play that well, actually, on Wednesday. He had, 20 FanDuel points. And again, remember, he's now 6.1K, so he needs 30 just to hit value. And then he had, he hit a 3 with, 2 seconds to go and a couple other quick, cheap FanDuel points to get up to 26 FanDuel points. But that's actually misleading. He didn't even play that well. So, Collison, I keep waiting for the game for him to bust out because he is getting around 30 minutes now. In theory, this would be a great game for him, right? Versus Houston, really fast-paced game, or at least Sacramento's playing up in pace. Granted, they can't play down in pace because they're the slowest team in the league right now. In theory, Collison could have a good game. He's another guy, though, that very limited exposure to tournaments only.
I feel you there. Two guys, 5.8K. You got Derrick Rose against the Hornets and Alfred Payton against the Wizards. Thoughts on these two?
I mean, Rose just doesn't have a great ceiling anymore. So, but if you want to play him, I think his floor is okay. I mean, I wouldn't play him in cash on a 14-game slate when you have so many better options. But Rose is okay. I mean, in a decent matchup versus Charlotte, I don't, I won't be playing a lot of him. But if you want to, I wouldn't recommend playing a lot. But a couple lineups, sure, go ahead. Who's the other guy you mentioned? Peyton.
Yep.
Yeah. So Peyton, I played a lot on Wednesday. They were versus Phoenix, so I thought with Orlando playing way up in pace, he'd have a really good game. He played 31 minutes and had 26 FanDuel points. He did okay. I was hoping for a little bit more. In a matchup versus John Wall in Washington, I mean, I don't love him at that price tag in that matchup.
What do you think about Rondo, 5.7K at Philly?
Yeah, so Rondo's an intriguing guy. I'll be playing Rondo in some tournaments, and he's actually relatively safe if you want to throw him in a cash game too versus Philly. I mean, he'll be up against Sergio Rodriguez, Fernandez, Valenzuela, whatever that guy's name is, but also Bayless, who can't play any defense. So I don't mind me Rondo. I think that Philly game. Well, I wish Embiid was playing. But that Philly game might stay relatively close. Philly's been playing really well. Chicago's only a 7.5 point favorite, so I don't mind Rondo. You're getting him at a pretty fair price. The last two games he's been good. He's given you like 39 and 32 FanDuel points. So I don't mind Rondo on Friday.
Thoughts on Dennis Schroeder, 5.5K at Utah?
At Utah, no, thank you.
Anybody else you're looking at here? We're getting down to the point where we're looking at some cheaper guys. Anyone you want to take a punt on?
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep playing some Tim Frazier as long as he keeps busting out, and he's got Dame Judi Dench Lillard's defense on Friday. So Frazier continues to excel, man. He's 5.4K. I'm not gonna count the last game too much because it was a blowout again for the Pelicans, but I'll have a little Frazier exposure. And then there's some cheap guys that like if Dragic is out, Tyler Johnson, even though it's against Memphis, he's a really nice play. Brandon Jennings, I don't think you have to do it on a 14-game slate, but if you want to get crazy, you can go there. But one guy, Tyler, who I'm still trying to decide if I want to play him in cash or not, and I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger in cash, but I'll have a lot of him in tournaments, and that's Jared Bayless. He's eventually going to be starting for Philly. I don't know if he's going to start Friday at point guard. He played really well in their last game against Memphis. He's only played, that was his second game back on the season. Played 30 minutes, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Man, I mean, we've seen in the past, when he gets hot, he has 40, 50 FanDuel point upside, and he put up 29 FanDuel points on Wednesday. At 3.5K, I mean, dear God, you need 17.5 FanDuel points. He can do that just waking up in the morning, falling out of bed, and just going right to the court. So if you want, I mean, on a 14-game slate, you could, if you want to punt the point guard position and have tons of leftover money spent up on all these stars, it's an interesting way to go on Friday.
I love it. Any other point guards you want to mention?
That's it.
All right, on the shooting guard, you got James Harden, 11.7K at Sacramento. Thoughts on Harden?
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny. I mean, the two probably best fantasy guys in the world right now, Westbrook up against, couldn't ask for a better matchup against Denver, and now we have Harden. In the notoriously, just if you know anything about DFS going back years, you always attack the Sacramento Kings shooting guard. So James Harden at Sacramento couldn't ask for a better matchup. I mean, dear God. And, I mean, James Harden is coming off a game where he did not play particularly well. But his floor, and this is the true, when he doesn't play well, he still gives you 50 FanDuel points. So that's his floor. The ceiling is, 70, 80, 90 points. I still lean Westbrook if I have to go one over Harden. But, with all the value out there, I have lots of lineups working. I can easily fit in Westbrook and Harden. I shouldn't say easily, but you can do it. So, I mean, Harden obviously is a fantastic play. You can play him in cash and tournaments too.
Next two guys on the board are matching up against each other. You got Giannis, 10.1K, against DeMar DeRozan at 9.4K. Thoughts on these two guys?
Yeah, so this is a really good example of tournament structure versus GPP. Giannis, cash game, super safe. The floor is really sexy. I mean, if I live on a fourth floor walk up, Giannis would basically, he'd live on a 10th floor walk up. That's how high his floor is. It's beautiful. And the ceiling is great too. The issue here, look, last game versus Orlando, Tyler, who plays so slow, he had 60 FanDuel points. The issue with Giannis is his price has jumped up, $500-$600. Now it's 10.1K, which to start the year that would have seemed pretty crazy, but it's not given his play. So Giannis is a really nice play. I think most people, are going to be on James Harden, so Giannis will be definitely fewer owned, or the ownership will be lower than that. I like Giannis. If you can't spend up it for Harden on cash, you could easily go Giannis if you wanted to, and for tournaments he's fine too. DeMar DeRozan, on the other hand, he's got tournaments only, and at that, I don't even think he's an excellent tournament play because his price needs to drop about $600. His 9.4K, Tyler, his upside is basically like 45 FanDuel points. I mean, his floor may be like 35 or 38, something like that. So he's got a decent floor, but it's just Giannis has a better floor and a better ceiling, quite honestly.
I'll second that. I mean, we've talked a lot about DeRozan and how we think that price is too high for what he can do. So I'm with you there. Next guy on the board, McCollum, 7.5K at home against the Pelicans. Thoughts on McCollum?
I mean, I don't love this play. First of all, shooting guard is so loaded. It's loaded at the top, and it's loaded with so much value. So, I mean, maybe McCollum as a dart in like one tournament just because he does have so much exposure. But there's so many better options. Even though this is a great game, great pace, great matchup. Like I just like so many guys better. I mean, I'll have a little exposure, but the price range is the problem here.
I feel you. A lot of good cheap options here. Next guy on the board is Dwayne Wade, 6.7K at Philly. Your boy Wade, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I love playing Wade when he's coming off rest. This is a really good matchup for him. But I just think there's going to be guys with better upside on Friday. I think he's safe if you want to, if you're scared off by a bunch of guys, and you want to roll some weight out, you can do it. But he's a guy that unfortunately he falls, somewhat similar to McCollum, and he's in that price range where it's just. I'm just stuck. I'd rather either spend, in the 4 to 5K range or spend up and get a Harden or Giannis. So, but 6.7K, it's an intriguing price tag. But just that 14 game slate, it's probably going to make me play. He's a guy I'll have in 1 or 2 lineups.
Next guy on the board, Mr. 40 Minutes, Bradley Beal, 6.3K at Orlando. Thoughts on Beal? Yeah, so
Beal's price jumped about $1,000. I mean, so Beal had 2 straight games of 45 plus points. He had 45 and 46 FanDuel points, and he had 42 actual points. So that's why his price jumped. Rightfully so. 5.3K was just too dirt cheap. When I jumped on the slates for tomorrow, one of the first things I did is look. I wanted to see what Beal's price was because I wanted to play him if he was 5.3K. He's not. Therefore, he's not as good as play at 6.3K. He's an okay play, but in a game, they're playing way down in pace against Orlando. I probably do not want a lot of Beal on Friday.
I'm with you. Next guy on the board, Devin Booker, 6.2K against Minnesota. Thoughts on Booker?
Yeah, I mean, Booker is a one-trick pony. He's so scoring dependent. We've talked about this numerous times, how hard it is for me to play these scoring dependent guys. He basically needs to score 30 actual points because that's all he does on the court to hit value. I don't expect him to do that. Therefore, he's a tournament-only play for me, and he's a dart. Maybe play him if I have 20 lineups. I don't even know if he'll get into 1.
What do you think about Batum's same salary, 6.2K at the Knicks?
Batum is the polar opposite than that bum one-trick pony Booker. And by the way, I just hate Devin Booker because, again, I play Brandon Knight, and Booker shoots every time. And like I can hear through my TV screen, Tyler, Brandon Knight calling for the ball, and Devin Booker going, shh, like shushing him. It's so cruel.
I feel you there.
Yeah. So anyway, but speaking of Batum. The exact opposite type of player than Booker. I mean, Batum, he doesn't need to score. He fills up the stats. He gets steals, he gets blocks, assists, rebounds. I mean, he does it all. He has been a little hit or miss this year, so I don't know if I want to play him in cash. But 6.2K, his price has come down $500 because he's had a couple bad games. He's a sneaky tournament option. I will be using him, a decent, maybe a decent amount in tournaments on Friday. I like the matchup. He's a sneaky guy to play.
Klay Thompson's the next guy on the board, 6K, coming off a 30-point game against the Lakers in relatively limited minutes. Thoughts on Thompson for tomorrow?
Yeah, Klay's another guy. Klay's very similar to Booker. I mean, Klay with when Golden State has those four other stars, while the other, Curry, Durant, and Draymond, like they do other things besides score. Now Klay is entirely just scoring dependent. I mean, look at his game logs, look at his box scores. So he's another guy. He basically needs like 30 actual points. Like, no, thank you. Like as much as I'd want to play him in a 233 game over under. I mean, I'll probably have a 1-1 game stack where I stack that entire Warriors-Lakers game in case it stays close. So maybe I play Klay there. But otherwise, I'm going to pass, man, on Friday.
What do you think about Victor Oladipo, 5.9K at the Nuggets?
What's my rule, Tyler, against Denver Guards?
You're loving Oladipo. I can already feel it.
Dude, he's been – the last 4 games, he's hit value. He's still at 5.9K. I think he'll be about 6.5K in about a week or two. Man, like I have lineups. I usually don't like playing Westbrook and Oladipo, but Friday may be a day where I'm going to have to unleash it. The Denver Guards are just that pathetic defensively. So Oladipo, you can play him in cash. I'm still not. I'm still only using him in tournaments. But yeah, he's got a lot of upside, and hopefully it will come through on Friday.
What are you thinking about Mr. Slam Dunk, Zach LaVine, 5.7K at Phoenix?
I love the game. I'm gonna have this is another game where I'm gonna have a game stack of this Minnesota Phoenix game if it stays close. But otherwise than that, I don't want a lot of LaVine. You look at him; the last 5 games he's barely hit value one time, and now he's another guy. He's super scoring dependent. I mean, I would hoping he would do other things this year, but it just hasn't worked out. So that price tag needs to come down on a 14-game slate. I could do better. You can do better. We all can do better.
What do you think about Rodney Hood, 5.6K against the Hawks?
I just think there's better options. He hasn't been that great, quite honestly, since with George Hill back, with Gordon Hayward back now. He's struggled to hit value. He's only done 1 of the last 4 games he's played. So I don't love Hood on Friday.
I'm with you there. Next guy on the board, 5.3K, Evan Fournier against Washington. Thoughts on him?
Tyler, we recommended this guy on Wednesday. I recommend him again on Friday. Like a couple of the Orlando guys are just too cheap. Fournier, I like this matchup versus Washington. He's basically probably their best scorer and probably their top option. He's locked in the mid-30s in minutes. The usage rate's very, very stellar. He had 39 FanDuel points last game, so that's giving you over 7 times value. That's how you win GPPs. So he's another guy for tournaments. And he's actually safe for cash too. But I don't mind playing him in tournaments at all. I will have a decent amount of exposure to him on Friday for sure.
100% behind you on that. Next guy on the board, Monte Ellis, 5.2K against the Nets. Thoughts on Ellis?
Yeah, no, thank you. Not in a 14-game slate.
What about your 2 boys at 5.1K? You got Lou Williams and Will Barton. Any interest in them too?
I mean, it's funny, man. Like I have a friend who's a pro at DFS, and he was all over Will Barton on Wednesday. He would not shut up to me about it, and I said, no, thank you. I'm not playing that guy in a back-to-back. Coming off the injury, and I was right, Tyler. 6 FanDuel points in 17 minutes. But granted, that guy's normally more. He's right more than I am usually. But Will Barton is a GPP play. Like Mike Malone loves him. Gary Harris is still out. The problem with Denver is, Jamal Murray's playing so well. So I don't know. The minutes are too crazy for me. So if you want to throw Will the Thrill in a GPP, you can. I don't mind it. In terms of who's the other guy we mentioned?
Well, Lou Williams, 5.1K.
Oh, so yeah. Talking about the Lakers just makes me sad and cry. I mean, they're playing so well as a team, so you want to be happy for them. You're a Lakers fan, right?
Yep.
So tell you take this one. Take it. I'm stuttering. I can't even say it. I'm stuttering, Tyler, because I have so much going on in my head with all these 14 games that I can't take it. So you take this player, please.
He's a one-trick pony. I mean, he's basically just going to score. He may chip in like 2 or 3 assists, but he's probably going to give you 2 turnovers too. So, I mean, it's going to kind of even out. He's only going to play like 22, 23 minutes. And, I mean, he's Lou Williams. He's got the potential to score 25 real points and 30 FanDuel points maybe. But, I mean, GPP only, obviously, and I'm not loving the play for tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with him, he's the worst kind of one-trick pony because Luke Walton just plays him like a yo-yo with minutes. So he's not even he's not locked into minutes. So now we're talking about like a one-legged one-trick pony. So it's a double one. It's a double one-trick pony. Very nerve-wracking play, and he was playing so well in limited minutes before the last couple of games, and with Russell out, I certainly expected his minutes to come up, and they just haven't. Now with that.
No, he just gives Russell's minutes to Calderon. Like no one's getting more minutes.
I know. It's And when and soon when we get to the power forwards with Randall out, you think those minutes go to Nance Jr., but they don't. Anyway, but Luke saying that with a game of a 233 over under, if you don't have one lineup with Lou Will and kind of stacking that Golden State Lakers game, you're probably not playing a lot of lineups. So I will have limited exposure to Lou Will. Just in case that game stays close, it's going to be because Lou Will gets hot.
All right, let's hear your men under 5K. Let's hear them.
Dude, shooting guard, so many guys that I love under 5K. I mean, this is the problem that it pains me because and one reason why I do have Westbrook over Harden, even though I do like that matchup a little bit more, it's just because I easily could see myself in a lot of lineups spending in cash games even, and especially in tournaments, using guys in this under 5K price range. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, 4.9K. I mean, even though I expected the minutes to come up with Russell, he's put up 35 and 24 FanDuel points the last game, so he's hitting value or exceeding it. I expect that to happen again on Friday. KCP. Everyone keeps ignoring KCP. KCP's price never goes up. He's 4.9K. No one ever owns him. He's got 30 FanDuel points the last 2 games. That's 6K, Tyler. So I like KCP again. Eric Gordon. His price has dipped under 5K, 4.9K versus Sacramento. What do we like to do? We like to attack the Sacramento shooting guard. So if Eric Gordon gets hot, he's probably a GPP only, but Eric Gordon I would probably have in 1 or 2 lineups. Seth Curry, 4.8K. Wesley Matthews, 4.8K. Both those guys are intriguing tournament plays. Both those guys are getting tons of shots. JJ Redick is a safe cash game play, 4.7K. My boy, who I will play in one lineup again, has dipped down to 4.3K. Brandon Knight, Tyler. I mean, 4.3K for a guy who has 50 FanDuel point upside. That's crazy. Granted, he does just sit and stand in the corner, but he is starting for Phoenix right now and playing like close to 30 minutes the last couple games, like 25, 28 minutes. So 4.3K, dear God, I'm going to have some exposure. Josh Richardson, he has played the 2 worst games of his life the last 2 games. I don't love the matchup at Memphis, but 4.2K, he's still, he get 20, 29 minutes, 34 minutes the last 3 games. He has easily 30-point ceiling. If Dragic is out, I love me some Josh Richardson. And then my Valentine, if you guys follow me on Twitter, you know what I mean by that. My Valentine, Kyle Korver, 3.8K. So, I mean, there's so many guys. If you really do want to play tons of stars, I mean, you can save at shooting guard and spend up at every other spot.
I actually passed out those Valentines when I was a kid. That's what's funny about that.
The Korver ones?
Yep.
That's so hilarious. That's awesome.
That is factually correct. You got anyone else you want to mention? That it?
My voice is hoarse and I'm losing it.
All right. So here's how I'll start off the small boards. You got the 2 big guns, relatively the same price. Kevin Durant, 9.9K at the Lakers. You got LeBron James, 9.8. Which one you going for tomorrow? You can only pick one. Which one you going for?
Dude, this is scary because you look at it, Dallas at Cleveland. Dallas may be the worst team in the league, so Cleveland's got to be a 16-point favorite, and Golden State's like a 13-point favorite. I mean, wow. This is really tough, man. Wow. I mean, normally LeBron is between these two normally like all year long, LeBron's my cash game guy, Durant's my tournament guy. For Friday, though, because I think both are going to be blowouts and the over-under for the Golden State game is going to be about 30 points higher than the Cleveland game, I would actually lean Durant if I had to go one.
On Durant, I mean, you got to feel pretty safe about 45 points. He's gotten 45 points in every game pretty much at least, and he did only get 42 the first game against the Lakers, so you got to feel pretty good about that. I mean, that's obviously not value, but I think there's some safety there. He's gonna dominate the Lakers even in limited minutes.
Well, that's the thing. So I've seen many games now where the Golden State has blowouts, and Durant still gets close to hitting value. LeBron in blowouts probably would still get somewhat close too, but I feel super comfortable with it with Durant.
I'm with you. What about your boy Jimmy Butler? 8.8K against Philly.
So Jimmy Buckets, his price is rising rapidly, but rightfully so. He's been the best player in the NBA last week, or at least in the top 5. Let's say if you want to be I guess there's other guys have played really well too, but he's been phenomenal. He's given you over 50 the last 2 games. Just Philly. There's no one on. Lord Covington cannot guard. No one can guard him. 8.8K. That's pricey, but he's safe for cash. If you want to spend, let's say, you build a roster, only have like 9K left, plop in Butler, man. He's very safe for cash. And I think he's an okay tournament play too on Friday.
What about Paul George, 8.4K against the Nets?
I mean, Paul George makes me physically ill. He's killed me. I think he hasn't had value more than 2 or 3 times all year. His price keeps dropping. He started the year over 9K. I think he was like 9.5K to start. He dropped over $1,000. He's coming off the injury now. 33 FanDuel points last game. Do not even think about playing him in cash. If you want to play him in tournaments and just hope that he finally goes off, go ahead. But if anyone can tell me what's going on with Paul George for the year, I would love to know. Like, is he having off-court issues? Because I don't know what the deal is there. Like, Nate McMillan. I don't know. Is he just hate Nate? Does he hate Nate McMillan? Is Nate McMillan not using him properly? He's been one of the most frustrating players to watch. And I have him in the season-long league too, which is annoying.
I think that Teague just has the ball in his hands a little bit more, which is taking the ball out of his hands. And, I think all that plays into it. Plus, like I said, they just have so many mouths to feed now that's eating into his usage quite a bit. Next guy on the board, Carmelo Anthony, 7.6K against Charlotte. Thoughts on Carmelo?
What's funny is I was building lineups before the show, and my first choice I had to make at small forward was, do I go Anthony or Butler in a lineup? And that was what I was faced with. I don't remember how many days ago this was now. 3 days, 4 days ago? I think it was earlier this week. And that was the day when Butler put up 55 FanDuel points and Melo had like 27. And what's the difference between me winning, 2,000 versus like 8,000 or something like that. Anyway, Melo is a guy. The problem with him, as we mentioned every show, is upside. What's his upside now, right? It's just not the same as it used to be. Could he get you 50 FanDuel points anymore at this stage of his career? He's like pretty clearly now. I think if you've seen anything, if you're watching the Knicks the last few games, Porzingis is their best player, and Porzingis might even be like their go-to guy in terms of shots. I think Carmelo still has more averaging on the year, but if you look at it for the last few games, Porzingis is getting pretty like similar shot attempts. I don't love Carmelo just because the upside is just not that great anymore. But still, he's still fine. He's pretty safe. His floor is basically what he did the last game, which is like 28 FanDuel points.
Well, relatively tough matchup too. You're gonna have Batum and MKG guarding him, which they're both pretty good defenders. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't love it. Rudy Gay, 7.2K against the Rockets. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, actually had a decent amount of Rudy Gay exposure last game, and he did okay. He had 32 FanDuel points. He's a guy that he's one of the few one-trick ponies I've been playing this year because he's actually been playing really well, and he's gone really unnoticed. And he's always crazy low owned because he has this price range that's really bizarre. First, Houston, it should be a fast-paced game. I'll use him a little bit in tournaments, but it's hard to get on a 14-game slate. It's hard to get too excited about Rudy Gay.
What about Gordon Hayward, 7.1K against the Hawks?
Man, I used I used Gordon Hayward in all my cash games on Wednesday, and it paid off. He had 41 FanDuel points versus Denver, and his price has dipped a little bit, 7.1K. I like the matchup again versus Atlanta. He's a pretty safe play, so he's a guy that I don't mind going to in cash because he has to do so much for that Utah team. I was a little nervous with George Hill coming back if his production would fall down. But really, Rodney Hood's been the one that's the production's gone down a little bit with Hill back. So I don't mind me some Hayward on Friday. I mean, I don't love the play, but I don't mind it.
You already gave your rant about this guy, Andrew Wiggins, 6.5K at Phoenix. 5 words or less. What are you doing with Wiggins tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, this bum, this buster, this
That's
tin
way
man.
more than 5 words already. Come on, 5 words or less. What are you doing? You playing him or not?
Tournament dart only.
There we go. Harrison Barnes, next guy, 6.1K at the Cavs. Thoughts on Barnes?
Dude, he's been pretty consistent, man, at that 6K price range. He's basically been giving you right around that 30, 31 FanDuel point mark. He's another guy. I'll throw in a couple tournaments and just hope that game can stay close against Cleveland, but obviously not an ideal matchup, not an ideal situation for him on Friday. And much, and on 14-game slate, you can do better.
Thoughts on Wilson Chandler, 5.9K against the Thunder. Gallinari potentially out, potentially in. A lot of uncertainty in that situation, but what are you thinking about Wilson Chandler?
Yeah, if I was struggling if I wanted to play Chandler in cash games on Wednesday, when Gallo was out, I ended up not playing him in cash games, and it was the right call. He played, it was at Utah, so that was one of my biggest concerns. He played 25 minutes at 23 FanDuel points. That was a back-to-back, though. So if Gallo is out again, I will once again have to consider, do I want to play Wilson Chandler in cash games? I think against OKC, even though Cephalosha scares me as a defender, he's really good. I mean, not Cephalosha. I mean Roberson as a defender is really good. But Chandler is an intriguing guy. If I don't, either way, I'm going to have exposure. It's just a matter, do I think he's cash game relevant if Gallo is out, and he's borderline cash game play. He's definitely a tournament play.
Thoughts on Trevor Ariza, 5.2K at Sacramento?
Yeah, I mean, not really, just because the upside is not tremendous anymore these days. So if you want to play him, he's relatively safe. Although 2 of the last 3 he has not been. But otherwise this season he can get you around 25 pretty easily, but he doesn't get you more than like 30. So not too much Trevor on Friday.
What about MKG, 5.2K at the Knicks?
Yeah, so MKG's price has come down because, he ever since the first game of the season when he put up like a ridiculous 50 FanDuel point night or 44 FanDuel points, it's been all downhill since. So he's a guy that I don't really want. He gets you defensive stats. He can't really score offensively. So on a 14-game slate, no thank you.
5,000 or less, hit it.
So the 5K guys, I mean, Marcus Morris, man, he's dipped all the way to 5K. First the Clippers, I don't mind that if you want to use him in a couple tournaments. Bazemore, 4.9K. Price intrigues me. The matchup against Utah does not. But tournaments, if you want to, fine. Mo Harkless is just a really safe play at 4.5K. You want to use him in cash, totally fine with it. Covington, 4.4K. He kind of went off a little bit on versus Memphis. Granted, it was double overtime game, but he put up 40 FanDuel points. That he does have 40, 50 FanDuel point upside. He's a guy that I'm going to always play in 1 or 2 GPP just because he can go off. Everyone loved Vince Carter on Wednesday. I didn't play him. He played 39 minutes, but he must have had some of the most unproductive 39 minutes of anyone this year. He basically put up a Courtney Lee line and had only 10 FanDuel points. But if you want to play him, if he's starting, you can. Evan Turner, 4.1K. And the one guy, Tyler, that I totally whiffed on Wednesday was Damari Carroll. Damari Carroll put up 39 FanDuel points. And he's only 3.8K, only played 27 minutes. But so if you want to use Damari Carroll to punt, and he does have some upside, I mean, you can. I don't expect him to get that many again, though. That was a little absurd.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's always been that kind of player where he has a boom game, and then he kind of goes back to what he does. So I wouldn't be expecting it again. All right, on to power forwards. Top man on the board, 11.6K at Portland. Anthony Davis, thoughts on him?
Oh, I'm trying to catch my breath. I mean, God, I love the matchup. I mean, it's so funny that all the stars have like the best matchups you could hope for. I mean, we just watched Kevin Love torch the Portland power forwards. I mean, God, Terry Stotts, he had no clue how to defend Kevin Love. He's going to have no clue how to defend Anthony Davis. I mean, so just a perfect matchup. Out of all the stars, Anthony Davis is always going to be the lowest owned, probably just because everyone's so scared of his injury issues that he always has. So I don't No, right now he's not in my cash games, but I think he is safe for cash, quite honestly. And he's a guy for tournaments, has just massive upside.
With you on all that. Blake Griffin, 9.6K at Detroit. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean tournaments only. He's been super consistent. I just think on a 14 game slate, in a slow down game here, I don't know if I want a ton of Blake exposure. But again, I don't have a great reason why, because he's been fantastic this year.
Next guy on the board is Draymond Green, 8K at the Lakers. Thoughts on him?
So his price is the one Golden State guy that's been dropping lately. So he was about a 9K player, at least when the season started. He was up there. He's been under 30 minutes the last few games. He's basically still gives you 36 to 38 FanDuel points, even when the Lakers have blowouts. So he's an interesting tournament guy. I'm going to roll out some lineups where I stack that Golden State Lakers game, and he'll be in a few.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Next guy on the board, Paul Millsap, 7.8K at Utah. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, so I avoid Utah like the plague. On a 14-game slate, I will continue to do so. If I do play an Atlanta guy, Millsap may be the one exception. I mean, he has 50 FanDuel point upside. Will he be able to flash against Utah? I don't know. But I'm going to make sure to play him at least in one or two lineups.
Your Love, Kevin Love, next guy on the board, same price, 7.8K against Dallas. Thoughts on Love?
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, he's my consistency monster. I played him in cash game almost every game of the season. The question is, do we dare do it when they're going to be a 16, 18-point favorite versus Dallas? I mean, how many minutes do we expect? I probably see him playing 30 minutes tops, if that. So I'm still on the fence of whether or not I'm going to use him in cash. I still think he's going to give you 25 FanDuel points, but is that going to be enough on a 14-game slate if they really do blow him out and he doesn't get many minutes?
Yeah, I'm with you there. The blowout thing definitely worries me for the cash games. Next guy on the board, Kristaps Porzingis, 7.2K against Charlotte. Thoughts on Porzingis?
He's been fantastic. He's been great the last 4 or 5 games. His floor is basically like 32, 33 FanDuel points, and he has like 50-plus FanDuel point ceiling. So he's a guy I'm definitely going to be using in tournaments. And quite honestly, if you didn't want to play Kevin Love in cash and you wanted to switch to Porzingis, it's an interesting play for Friday. I mean, I'm not quite there yet, but I mean, I can see the arguments for it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Next guy, Jabari Parker, 6.9K against the Raptors. Thoughts on Jabari?
He's another guy, man. Him and Giannis are the entire Bucks team right now. He's another guy that's actually pretty safe, and like, I would consider him for cash on a 14-game slate. Though, do I want to do it? I don't know, but I will have some tournament exposure to him as well. I mean, the only 2 Bucks I ever play are Giannis and Parker, and even though that price has come up, he's still an okay option at that price.
What about Serge Ibaka, 6.2K against the Wizards?
Yeah, I don't want reverse Benjamin Button on Friday. I mean, he was one of the Orlando guys that let me down. I mean, I played a lot of Evan Fournier, a decent amount of Ibaka, and a decent amount of Vucevic. And I played a lot of Peyton too. Vucevic and Fournier really came through for me. Peyton was okay, and Ibaka sucked. Ibaka's been boom or bust all year. So tournaments only if you want to throw him in a lineup or two. I just think you can do better because his price has come up now because he had a couple good games. So I don't want a ton of him on Friday.
Next 2 guys, Kenneth Faried and Dirk Nowitzki, are both 6K. I'm avoiding both tomorrow, but what do you got to say about either one of them?
Avoid on a 14-game slate.
I'm with you. Next guy, Gorgie Dang, 5.9K at Phoenix.
I like the matchup. Dang has been pretty good. I don't think he's got massive upside. So he's another guy where if you were confused what to do with cash, you didn't want to play Kevin Love, and you wanted to spend a couple $1,000s fewer, wanted someone relatively safe, Gorgie Dang's a fine play on Friday. I mean, that game should be so delicious in terms of pace.
What about Thad Young, 5.6K against Brooklyn?
Yeah, so I mean, Thad's salary has been a yo-yo lately. It was 5.8, 5.2, now it's 5.6. But I don't want a ton of Pacers on Friday. He's okay, but I'm just gonna avoid this Brooklyn game a lot for I don't want a lot of exposure in that game.
Any interest in Zebo, 5.4K at Miami?
No, thank you.
Taj Gibson 5.3 at Philly.
I mean, he's been pretty consistent, man. But Taj is a guy. His ceiling is 30 FanDuel points. I would not play him in tournaments, quite honestly. He's a guy that I would only use in cash. And I think against Philly, it's probably a relatively safe cash game play if you want to go that route. I probably will not. So he's okay.
How about Trevor Booker 5.2K at
Yeah,
Indiana?
I haven't played Booker in weeks now because he's so boom or bust. He's not a cash game guy. He put up 42 FanDuel points on Wednesday, and he was in the winning slam lineup. So he made someone else a lot of money. It was not me. Whenever I play him on the nights, he gets 10 FanDuel points. So he's boom or bust. If you want to play him, go ahead. I probably still will not on a 14-game slate.
Thoughts on Tobias Harris 5.2K against Clippers?
Yeah, he was my sneaky ninja on Wednesday, and he got off to a really good start. The problem was they blew Miami out, so he didn't play I don't think anything in the fourth quarter. He put up 27 FanDuel points. He's a guy, his price is too low. That price should be higher. He's a 6K player in terms of talent, so I will use him a decent amount on Friday for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. That price is just way too low. Terrence Jones 5.1K at Portland.
Yeah, I mean he's putting up like 30 FanDuel points in 24 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute monster. The minutes are just too inconsistent when Anthony Davis is there to make him a cash game guy for me. But if you want to play him in tournaments, I think you can. I'm just too afraid of Elvin Gentry.
I feel you. Under 5K, who are you going for?
Enes Kanter, I do my mandatory one lineup a night just because he's a fantasy point per minute monster. You never know, but again, he could get 8 minutes or and his ceiling is like 22 minutes. Ryan Anderson, 4.7K. I will throw him into one mandatory GPP lineup as well. Frank the Tank Kaminsky, this guy just keeps performing, man. It's the last 5 games, 27, 30, 27, 23, 34. If you want to use him in cash at 4.5K, I'm totally fine with it. I'm also fine with using him in tournaments. I mean, he's playing really well, and he's always underlooked, or I say overlooked. Jokic, 4.5K. Tournaments, you could throw him in a lineup. Ilyasova coming off a really nice game for Philly, 4.2K. He's fine. And then Ed Davis. I don't know what's going to happen with Ed Davis, if he's going to start or not. Is he going to be the one that Terry Stotts puts in charge of Anthony Davis on Friday? He started on Wednesday, but Kevin Love just, I think Myers or Plumlee started out on Love, but Ed Davis was starting and played only 18 minutes, though. So Ed Davis tournament only if you want to go that route. And Larry Nance Jr., I'm going to use a decent amount of again on Friday, even though he did not really come through for me and only put up 15 FanDuel points in 18 minutes. But he's so dirt cheap. No Randall. He's got 30, 35 FanDuel point potential.
I'm with you on all that. On to the centers. You got DeMarcus Cousins, 10.3K against Houston. Thoughts on Cousins?
I'm gonna need you to do the first 2 or 3 guys. My voice, I'm losing. I need to get some water. Go ahead.
Yeah, I big time whiffed on Cousins the last game. He had some terrible numbers against OKC, and then he dominated them for 52.6 FanDuel points. Cousins is a guy, I'm probably not spending up for him. There's some guys I like at center, a little bit lower value, but you like the matchup. I think he's going to have a good game, probably 45, 50 FanDuel points. Next guy on the board, you got Hassan Whiteside, 9.3K at Memphis. Hassan, he let Daniel down the other night. I'm assuming Daniel would want to give his rant right here. He only scored 17.6 FanDuel points in his last game, but he was coming off 5 straight games where he had over 47 FanDuel points. So you like that. He's just such a huge part of their offense. 9.3K. I don't love the salary. Like I said, I'm probably going to go for someone cheaper at center since you only need one. But Hassan is probably decent value.
All right, I'm back, man. Whew.
You ready? You ready for all this? You want to give your Whiteside rant now?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So real quickly, I always use Cousins in a couple tournaments each night, even though that price is so nasty. And I think as me and Tyler discussed a few shows ago when Tyler was giving his strategy for centers, you just don't have to play right now. I don't feel a top end center. There's so many good value centers. It's just really hard to spend up, like the opportunity cost, I don't think is quite, it's not the same as it is for all the other positions if you don't play Cousins or Whiteside or Towns. So, I'm probably not going to play. I'll have exposure to the top guys, but like in my cash games and in a lot of my tournaments, I'm going to rule with some of the more lesser priced value plays for center for sure. But Cousins is, it's Cousins. He's obviously got upside and obviously a good matchup. Whiteside, he destroyed our hopes. He destroyed our dreams. He destroyed our future, Tyler, on Wednesday. 18 FanDuel points. Miami, just an atrocious game. It's painful. Now, this is, you couldn't ask for a worse matchup at Memphis. Marc Gasol. Granted, Joel Embiid did pretty well against Marc Gasol, but Joel Embiid is just he's an alien. I don't understand. That guy is just great. Whiteside's great too, but 9.3K, I just don't want a ton of exposure. I mean, will I – definitely not for cash games on Friday at that price, at that matchup, but in a couple tournaments just because, you never know, I guess. But, it's just – there's too many other good options.
What about Towns, 9K at Phoenix?
Yeah, so Towns, his price has jumped all the way up now to approaching Whiteside territory. Minnesota at Phoenix. So Chandler, I think, is coming back tomorrow, so he'll have some Tyson Chandler defense. And I'll probably deal with some Alex Len too. I mean, those guys don't worry me. I think Towns that game should be a nice up and down game. He's fine. Same issue I have with Whiteside. It's just I don't want to spend that much money on center. If I had to choose between Towns and Whiteside, though, Towns for sure.
I'm with you on all that. Next two guys, 8.1K. You got Andre Drummond against the Clippers and Dwight Howard against the Jazz. Which one are you going to with between these two?
Yeah, Drummond, out of all the guys we met, out of Cousins, Whiteside, Towns, Drummond, the most exposure to I'll have is probably Drummond. Like I continue to play him. No one else does, and he does really well for me. Granted, I shouldn't say that because most nights he has not this year. But last night versus Miami, he severely outplayed Whiteside. In only 26 minutes, dude put up 54 FanDuel points. His potential and his upside is so tremendous that I will play him in a decent amount of tournaments because you're getting him at 2,000 less than Cousins, 1,000 less than Whiteside and Towns, and his upside is basically the same as those guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, if anyone in the league has a shot to go for 15 and 15 on a night, he probably has the best chance. So, I mean, you like it relatively bargain salary.
Yeah, I mean, the one issue is that I'm a little nervous about is Doc Rivers, either doing the hack of Drummond, and basically both those coaches saying, getting so fed up with watching DeAndre Jordan and Drummond shoot free throws, they both go small. I'm a little worried of that, but still, I think Drummond's, he's worth a play in tournaments. Don't play him in cash.
With you there. Dwight Howard, 8.1K at Utah. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, so I forgot who it was on Twitter. Someone was telling me how they played him on Wednesday, and I was like, yeah, I'm not playing Dwight in a back-to-back. I was wrong, and this guy was right. Dwight had a great game at Indy, 23 points, 20 rebounds, 46 FanDuel points. So, again, Atlanta's at Utah, so no thank you for me. But Dwight's shown this year he's a pretty safe play.
What about Brook Lopez, 7.3K at Indy?
I mean, so Brook, again, still not getting 30 minutes a night. He gets like 28, 29. When your minutes are that restricted, your ceiling is obviously limited. He's a guy, if I have 20 lineups, I play in one or two tournaments.
What about Marc Gasol, 6.9K against Hassan Whiteside and the Heat?
Yeah, Marc Gasol is still too darn cheap. Whiteside, a lot of these top centers offensively, they can be abused defensively. Drummond can be attacked. Towns can be attacked. DeMarcus can be attacked. Who else am I missing? Oh, yeah, Whiteside can definitely be attacked. So Gasol should be like 7.5K at the bare minimum. So 6.9K is way too dirt cheap. I played him a decent amount last two games where he put up 45 and 39. I think his ceiling is like 30 FanDuel points, which is pretty close to value. So if you want a safe but not sexy play at center, I think Gasol is definitely in play. I mean, the one issue here is the pace of this game is going to be so slow. The over-under could be like 194, something pretty disgusting. But he's fine.
What about Gobert, 6.7K, matching up against Dwight Howard and the Hawks?
No, yeah, I just can't play Rudy on a 14-game slate.
What about DeAndre Jordan, same price at Detroit?
Same thing. I can't play him on a 14-game slate.
Marcin Gortat, 6.4K at Orlando.
If you want to roll him out in cash, he's been really safe this year. I guess I'm okay with that. Vucevic is such a bad defender. That's the only reason why I was pausing. But
Well, I know competition for minutes with Mahimi still out. I mean, he's going to get big minutes, which you like.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah. The problem is there's just centers that are cheaper than him that I like more, but I don't mind Gortat. I'll have a little exposure to Gortat on Friday.
What about Valanciunas, 6.2K at Milwaukee?
Normally I love playing this guy, but just man, there's so many good centers. Yeah, I mean, I'll have a little exposure to him in tournaments, and he's probably, quite honestly, safe for cash too. I mean, Milwaukee, you want to attack the Milwaukee bigs. They're so freaking bad. I mean, Jason Kidd has no idea what he's doing with their big guys. I mean, he doesn't play Monroe. He's starting Henson, and he even gave minutes to like the seventh member of the Plumlee family the last couple nights. So it's just a mess there. Valanciunas with a really tasty matchup here.
Thoughts on Nick Vucevic, 6.2K against the Wizards?
Yeah, so I played a decent amount of Vooch on Wednesday. He's slowly starting to play better. I wish the minutes would creep up. I think they don't because he just doesn't play defense. But 44 FanDuel points on Wednesday, that's what you're looking for. So, 6K player with 8K upside. So versus Orlando, Gortat's a decent defender, but I mean I'll have a little exposure to Vucevic. I don't love the matchup, but it's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, like we talked about last time, I mean, he's going to start hitting his shots a little bit more and giving you a little more value. Miles Turner, 6.2K against the Nets. Thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, his last 4 games, he's basically giving you 30 FanDuel points, so which is basically pretty close hitting value. Just, I mean, all these guys are so close. It's funny. I mean, Turner, Vucevic, Valanciunas, Gortat are all between 6.2, 6.4K. The problem for me is I like, Valanciunas, Gortat better than, and Vucevic probably better than Turner. Maybe I like Turner better than Vucevic, but, he's like the third or fourth guy there. So that's the issue. I mean, maybe, I guarantee you I will do this. I will roll out the same exact lineup, and then I'll have Gortat in one, Valanciunas in one, Vucevic in one, and Turner in one, because they're all priced, basically the exact same. Now I know a lot of you can't do that because you guys don't play, 20, 30, whatever, how many lineups, like I do. But center. It's just, all these guys are so hit or miss too. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack. But again, I would rank them, Valanciunas 1, Gortat 2, probably Turner 3, Vucevic 4.
Thoughts on Capella, 5.8K in Sacramento?
The foul trouble concern worries me a little bit versus Cousins. Otherwise, Capella's been great. I used him on cash on Wednesday even, and he did. I was hoping for more, but then he put up 29 FanDuel points, and he had like 20 at the half, so I was hoping he'd give me like 40, 45, but that didn't happen. But he's had 7 straight games with a floor of 28 FanDuel points and a ceiling of like 39. So he's been a really safe play. I mean, I don't know if I'll use him for cash versus DeMarcus Cousins. I think he's a lot more expensive actually on DraftKings. But so he's a tournament play for sure on Friday.
Thoughts on Mason Plumlee, 5.3K against Pelicans?
Dude, another really good, just a safe freaking center, Tyler. And
Plum Dog, man, I love him.
Yeah, the Plum Dog, and he's cheaper than all of them. Plum Dog, he only needs like 22, 25 minutes, and he's going to give you like between 25 and 30 FanDuel points. Like, look at this. I think I read off his game logs last time. I'll do it again just so you guys understand how safe this guy is. 30, 24, 27, 36, 25, 25, 28, 33. So, not monster upside, but he's basically giving you 5 to 6 times value. So, in a pretty nice matchup versus the Pelicans, if you want to use him for cash, totally fine with it. I mean, otherwise, I would say you could use Alex Len at the same price, but since Tyson Chandler's back, I like Plumlee now over Alex Len for cash. If you want to spend around 5 in that 5K range, so
Mm-hmm.
Plumlee's a really nice play on Friday.
I'm with you. And then the next guy, obviously, is Alex Len at 5.3K. I'm avoiding him if Chandler's back. Like you said, he's an option if Chandler sits out.
Yeah, I mean, Chandler hasn't played now. Man, he's missed a lot of games. What, 5, 6? I don't know how many games. So I don't know how many minutes Chandler's going to play. Len's still going to be in play for me, but tournaments only. He's been great. So I think they're still going to find a way to give him 25 minutes. If he gets 25 minutes, he's a fantasy point per minute monster. So I still like Len. The problem is I just can't use him in cash on Friday. I will definitely use him in tournaments, though, still.
Yeah, I'm with you. Under 5K, anyone you're going for?
Tristan Thompson, if you want to, but I'd probably avoid versus Dallas. Just the minutes, I don't know how many they'll play. Steven Adams, 4.9K. This buster. I love attacking the Denver bigs. Adams relatively safe. He hasn't been super. The ceiling really hasn't been great, and his floor hasn't been as good as I would have hoped this year. But he's okay at 4.9K. I mean, that's so cheap. A better option though at 4.9K is Robin Lopez. I mean, this guy, man, he's been so great. He was my cash game play on Tuesday or what? I think it was Tuesday, and he gave me 37 FanDuel points. So you're telling me a 5K player is going to give me 7 times value? I mean, sign me up for that. I will have so much Robin Lopez against a crappy Philly team with no Embiid. He's going up against Okafor. Everyone blocks Okafor's shots. Robin Lopez over under 5 blocks on Friday, Tyler. I love me some Robin Lopez. God, I'm even getting more excited as I think about it. So I mean, you could even go Robin Lopez in cash on Friday. Quite honestly, not as safe of a floor as Plumlee, but the ceiling's higher, and it's a pretty safe play, man. Yeah, I like that. Nurkic in tournaments only 4.9K. And then Okafor, 4.4K. I played him when Embiid is out. I've been playing him. He's giving me like 22 FanDuel points or so a couple nights ago. So at 4.4K, I don't mind that. I mean, I'm not going to do it in cash, but if you're looking to punt, I think you can do that. That's enough centers, isn't it?
I think that's enough, man.
Oh God, whew. I'm exhausted. My voice, Tyler. I can't wait till we do a slate just with 7 games or something.
It will be nice, won't it?
Oh God, yes. So is that everyone?
That's it. That's all we got.
All right, guys. So I think all right. We did okay. I mean, I think it was a little over an hour, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We tried to mention almost every player, so enjoy the games, man. It's going to be so much action coming at you everywhere. Yeah, so remember my one kind of tip on a slate like this: don't worry too much about ownership. There's really no such thing as a chalk play when you have 14 games. I mean, dear God, just look at center. How many guys I liked? I mean, there must have been 8 centers that I like that I honestly think are legit good plays on Friday. So it's a crazy slate. Try not to go too crazy with all the data, all the analytic stuff out there. Just have fun with it. Lots of games, lots of basketball. Should be a good night. Yeah, Tyler, anything else?
Just enjoy some basketball. That's what we sometimes forget. Just watch the games and have some fun with them.
Yep, I'm with you. So I hope you guys again had a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. We'll be back sometime to talk about DFS. I'm not sure if we'll do the Saturday slate or not, but we'll see. We'll definitely see you soon. And with that said, see ya.